We are now going to have a look at some more of the components we haven't examined yet. Let's take a look at the camera player tracker. So let's say we want to add a zoom factor for the camera. So we add, for example, 1.6. But of course, if we play right now, the player will go out of the camera and it will not follow it. To make it follow the player, I'm going to Shmup camera player tracker. Now, once I hit play, the camera follows the player inside the scene. I can have a tracking transition time, for example, 0.5 seconds. And let me hit play. And it makes the transition slightly smoother. I'm going to keep it at 0.3. And now we have, with this camera player tracker, we have additional settings such as for the camera to shake. Let's make the shake duration for 0.5 seconds and the distance for 0.2 units and the speed for 20. And let me hit play. To test the camera shake, I have a handy button inside here, which you can see how the camera is shaking. Perhaps it's too quick. Let me try a value of 10. I think it's better. Maybe 8. I think this is good enough. Let me just set the value here to 10.2. Okay, it looks good enough now. So now we have a camera shake, but of course, once you shake the camera, you can't just press a button. You prefer that some event will activate the shake. So we have here inside this side one, we have the simple one enemy. So ideally I could make it once this enemy is eliminated that the camera will shake. So I'll go inside here. I have already added it. Let's pretend that it was not there. I'll go into add components, Shmup inside FX, enemy, and I'll choose the camera shake. And from here, I can choose whatever event that I would like. For example, let me put it on elimination. So this means once the enemy is eliminated, the camera will shake. So let me save this one. And let me try it out. So this is the player. Maybe it's shaking too much. Okay, this looks good enough. I'm going to save it. And you can apply the same thing for the player. For example, I can add the component, Shmup FX, player, and I can have a camera shake for the player, and I can choose whatever events that can activate it. So for example, you might want, once the player is eliminated, you have shake or whatever. Just going to remove that. And that's the camera shake effect. Another interesting feature might be the vitals slider. I'm also going to add it to this enemy, but to make it show, I'm going to add maybe 200, and let me see if this is appropriate. Maybe let's just make it into 50 by 50. Okay, so this is good. and I'm going to add a vital slider to it. To add a vital slider, you just go to the prefabs, UI, and I already have one over here, so I'm just going to drop it, Agent Vitals, and I'm going to link it. Currently it's not linked, maybe it's too big as well. I'm just going to link it inside the simple. I'm going to add component, Shmup boss effects, and it's under common because the same component will be used for the player and the enemy. Let me add 2, 1 health bar and 1 shield bar. And let me apply. So you see now, this can be nice for a boss, and you can as well apply it for the player. Some other scripts that I can look into, we probably don't need to apply. I'm just going to show you some of the inside the demos. So I'm going to open up the fighter jet scene. As you see here, the player sprite changes once it moves, and it also can occur also for the enemies. Let me just see the player in this demo. You will find that there's a component called Sprite Swapper by 8 Direction. This player just has a sprite editor, sprite renderer, and it's applied. You just apply the mover over here, and you apply the sprite renderer, and this sprite renderer will be the idle, and these are just the images that will change whatever the direction is activated. But just to mention, these image sprites are still images and are not animations. So it just moves into a still image and not an animation. Maybe later on I'll consider doing an animation. We'll see about that. And this component is located inside Shmup boss, movers, components, because this one is tightly connected to the mover. It needs a mover so that it can know what to change. You have one by 8 direction and you have one by 4 direction. And you also have a gradual sprite swapper, which I will show you in a minute. The gradual sprite swapper, I think, is inside the weapons demo. I have it applied to the player as well. And you have also here just a gradual sprite swapper. Let me just show you a second. So when the player moves to the right, the images flip through, almost as if they were an animation. And let me just zoom into the player. It's just a sprite, and this sprite is with the gradual sprite swapper located from Shmup boss effects. Movers, components, gradual sprite swapper. You have here the idle sprite, which is and the mover, and you have the different images that it will shift to when it goes to the right and when it goes to the left. And that's it. So now we've examined the vital slider and the camera shake effect and the mover components over here. And with this, I think we just have a couple more things. In the next tutorial, I'll just explain the pickups and the player upgrades.